I believe the first time I met Jimi was at Sam Tannehill and Cheryl Francis's house. We were all friends back then, and they were having a party, and Jimi was going to roast a goat. And I had never had a whole goat before, and Jimi liked doing that type of thing. So that was the first time I met him, and I think it's kind of hard not to miss him. When you first meet Jimi, you know who everyone's talking about. You know, people will describe Jimi as he was just kind of a large, muscular, wild guy who wore like army boots and you know, these leather jackets. He drove a Unimog, you know, and he had a Jeep and liked to talk about, you know, crazy things and shooting guns and hunting chanterelles. And so he was this larger than life character. And in true Jimi fashion, he loved to cook, but the food never came out until midnight. So for example, this goat party, everyone was there drinking and talking and drinking and talking while Jimi was slowly roasting this large goat. The goat wasn't finished till about 1 a.m. So at that point, people were voraciously stuffing goat into their mouth because everyone was had imbibed. But that's the first time I met Jimi, was in a social setting where there was food and wine and celebration, and you know, I think that was pretty normal. Being in the same industry, we would get together for lunches and talk about wine, talk about winemaking, talk about wine sales, because we were two young guys. You know, he had started before we did, but we were two young guys trying to run wine businesses. He was just kind of a larger than life guy, and everyone wanted to be around him. He had that magnetic personality, very friendly, looked intimidating. You know, there's something about Jimi that looked like, oh my God, you know, but he was like a big teddy bear. You know, he had a great, warm, heart-friendly personality. So knew what he liked, made good Riesling, made good Pinot Noir, had this crazy label that was, you know, made after in the image of his tattoo. You know, that I think that kind of sums Jimi up. I mean, people are like, wow, what is that? It's this dragon, I'll show it to you, you know, and he had these whimsical, fun names for his wines. You know, he was really into, I guess when he was younger, Janie was saying, you know, like he was kind of like that maybe Dungeons and Dragons guy, or liked fantasy and wore trench coats and had long hair and, you know, and had a dragon tattoo. And I think that, you know, that really showed in his wines and his wine style. And so he fit perfectly into the Oregon wine industry because he was one of those maverick type personalities. He was an iconoclast, really just, he thought in a different way and presented his wines in a different way. And that in Oregon is totally welcome and accepted. And so he meshed perfectly. And I think that, you know, just his warm personality, his giving character, his nature, made everyone want to be around him, and thus everyone wanted him in the wine industry. You know, those are the kind of people that the Oregon wine industry was built on. The night before Jimi died, we had dinner together. Sam Tannehill and Cheryl Francis and my wife Caroline and I and Jimi had dinner at Tina's restaurant. And so it's one of those funny things where I hadn't seen Jimi in maybe a month or something. And we all had dinner together, and he leaned over and said, hey, you know, we should go mushroom hunting together. I haven't seen you in a long time. We need to see each other more often. I was like, yeah, I miss you too, and it would be nice to do that. He goes, let's go mushroom hunting, you know, this weekend. I said, that'd be great. Yeah, and he died like 8 hours later, I think. We knew that we had to help Jimi make his wine. We knew we probably needed to get Janie involved, and we needed to do something for Pascal. So I think at the time it just seemed like the right thing to do. We didn't know. that this group would help over a period of 3-4 years, and Janie would jump in with both feet and wrap her head around this and take Brooks to where it is now. I mean, Brooks now is a thriving business. They have a beautiful winery and a state vineyard. They make great wines. Chris is still at the helm. Pascal is now of age. It's a wonderful story. Tragic, but it's just so amazing to think back how everyone stepped in and collaborated, and now to see where they are, we're all proud of them. It's a great story. The amazing part of that story is how Janie went from showing up at her dead brother's house on day one, knowing nothing about Oregon wine, to now being one of the leaders of our industry. That transformation was pretty amazing, pretty astounding to watch. That took a lot of courage and commitment and perseverance. I only had met Pascal maybe 1 or 2 times. He was a young boy, and he had a messy room with G.I. Joes and Army guys, and you could tell that Jimi, I think, maybe secretly deep down wanted to be like a special forces someone. Like he had this like, you couldn't picture him in the military, but I think he wanted to be like a Navy SEAL or something. And so he talked a lot about jets and airplanes and guns and tanks, and he loved military machinery and things like that. And so Pascal idolized his dad and had toys that were tanks and airplanes and cannons and G.I. Joes, and he was just a mini Jimi, and it was really cute to see. And now when I see him as a grown man, it's shocking because there's such a resemblance to Jimi. It's just kind of like every time I see him, I have a double take. But I think it was just seeing how much Pascal idolized his father was quite special. To die at that age is tragic. To leave a son is tragic. To see a community come together is amazing. To see that community's efforts and a sister's efforts then not only survive, but succeed and then prosper. There's no part of that story that is not heartwarming, authentic, unique. It's tragic that such an amazing story had to happen, starting with the death of a young man, but I think that no matter who hears that story and sees where they are now, can't help but want to be a part of it somehow.